what is the name of this application?
This is PyCharm. I'll just explain you what are we going to do in this. So just give me 1 minute. Okay, so we are having this live session to start Python for beginners. I have a student with me so that you can get the feel of an interactive class, because usually the online classes are boring since one person is speaking and the others are just listening to that. So we are having it in the form of an interactive way. So I have one student on call with me and I'll be teaching him. He'll be asking doubts so that you can get the thing that how one-to-one online class goes. If you feel like booking such class with me, my contact details are given in the description, so you can check it out and book your own class as well. Till then, enjoy watching this and learn Python from the beginning. So if you are a person who has never done anything in programming, you can start from here and go ahead with the coding experience. So I have Mr. Deepak with me, who is a chartered accountant by profession, but he wants to explore his skills in programming. So he opts to learn Python as the first language, because Python is a tool which is used a lot in data analysis, in business intelligence and machine learning. So hi Deepak.
Hi Anjali.
So would you tell me, like, why did you decide to go for Python and why did you decide to go into programming?
Well, that's a very good question, because I am a chartered accountant. I do not have any IT experience as such. But if I have to explain why I want to learn Python, I would point them into 3 points. The first point is that for data analysis, we have to use a lot of tools, and Excel has its own limitations. So Python, I understand, is very good in processing large amount of data, and for the graphical interpretation of the data. So I think for data analysis, Python is the best tool available. Secondly, it's also in demand these days. A lot of companies, especially MNCs, demand IT skill sets apart from a basic accounting, and Python is in demand for these skill sets, and so that's another reason I want to learn Python. And third and lastly, because I want to make new innovative ways in which data can be analyzed. So I want to try new things, especially in IT, and learn how in a more interesting way we can actually do the financial analysis of our balance sheet and trial balances.
Right. So that is really nice, but we are going to start from the very beginning, since you are new to programming and you don't have like any prior knowledge of coding. So I'll treat you as a very beginner and we'll start from the very basics of the language, right? And the ones who are watching it live, if you get any doubts in between, you can ask at the end of the session. Okay, so let's start with the thing, Deepak. See, now first of all, when you have to learn any programming language, you have to know a word called algorithm. So whenever we do coding, we have a basic thing called algorithm, and the definition of the word algorithm is that step-by-step instructions to do a particular task. So when you have to do a task, when you want the computer to do it for you, you have to give specific instructions one by one. Like in your work also, if you have to get work done from your team member, you tell the steps like do this, send this file to me. So there are certain steps. Same way, if you want to get something done from the computer, we have to tell the steps. So that is algorithm. Once I'm fine with the algorithm, like what I have to take as an input from various sources, maybe from the user, from a pre-stored file on the computer, from a hard disk, pen drive, anywhere. So you just need to get some data, then you have to do processing on it, and then we have to show the result, right? So input, processing and output are the main things of any program. So once you're clear with the algorithm, you can go ahead for the program in any language. You can code in Java, you can code in C, C++, but first thing is developing the logics. So if your logics are clear, we can do in any language. We choose Python because it is versatile and it has a very basic syntax. So it's a high level language, easy to code, easy to understand. Now, how do we go for it? Now, first of all, you need the software. So for downloading Python, you can do one thing. You just go to Google and then search for Python download. So when you have to download Python, this is the Python website only, python.org. From here, you can download Python. The latest version is 3.8.2, but you can download any of these. So it's better we download the latest one. So we can get 3.8.2. I have already downloaded 3.7.7 because when I downloaded, it was that version in the market, right? So you have to download whatever version you have, the latest one, from the downloads. So you go to downloads, choose like whether you have Windows, you have Mac, or whichever. Accordingly, you have to download it from here. After downloading, as you normally install the software, so you need to install that. But once we normally install it, it doesn't work, means you directly can't use it. For that, there is a command line interface, but we don't use command line interface. No one uses because it's not user friendly. Command line is, have you ever worked in terminal on Mac or in command prompt in Windows? It looks like this. For example, I want to open terminal. So if this is terminal, you see this is a character user interface. If I have to type something, I have to type a command over here. For example, I have to list something or anything, so I need to write a command. So obviously we don't prefer such an interface where we have to type in like this. We need a better interface where I can write a whole program, compile it, and work on it. So for that, you have many options. You can download Python IDLE. You can download PyCharm. You can download Anaconda. So many of those are there. So I have downloaded PyCharm. So I'm using PyCharm because PyCharm helps me to work in other languages as well. So I'm using PyCharm. All the interfaces are same, the coding is same, the only thing is the option where you compile and run comes at a different place. So installing the software is not at all a problem. You just download this, install this, and similarly as we have found this Python, you can write PyCharm download, and when you go to this, so it's from JetBrains, so you can just select whichever, and after selecting this, and it is completely safe to download and run, so you don't have to panic that it won't be good for your computer or something. So you can download and install from here, right? So once we have installed, we open PyCharm, and when I open PyCharm, I get such a window. So not exactly this window. The window comes where you can make a new project. For example, now when we call it a project means where you have many programs together. So one program is one code, but a project has many program files in it. Okay, so to create a new project, you click on new project, and over here it shows you the path that where your project is going to be saved. So it is showing that it is going to be saved in PyCharm projects. Okay, if I want to change the location, I can definitely do that. Otherwise, let the location be same, but you can give the name. So let's say we want to start with programs of simple mathematical operations. So I give it a name, say mathematics or something like that. So I give it the name called mathematics, and we want to open it in new window. So a new window opens up where you get a new project. On the left hand side, you get the file explorer where you get all the files in your project, this window. So it shows you which all files we have. Right now we don't have any files because it's a new project. Are you getting this? Now we have to start with it. So we go to file and we go to new. So which file you have to create? You have to create a...
Okay, first we created a new project.
Yeah.
And under that project, now we are creating a new file.
Exactly. So you can have one project and you can have any number of files under that. Okay. So I create a file and then I have to give it any name, whatever name you want to give the program. By default, the file has an extension .py. So first .py, that means it's a Python file. Okay. Now we have to write the commands. Like you have any other language, be it Hindi, English or whatever, we have a way of saying words. Same way here we have words for giving the messages, to convey the instructions. Now we'll start with a very basic thing because in most of the languages we start with a program called hello world, printing hello world on the screen. So when it's a stereotypical program, although it doesn't do anything, but everyone makes this hello world program for the first time. So that can be done with the help of a simple statement called print. So Python is case sensitive. That means if a command is defined to be given in small letters, you have to write it in small. If it's in capital, you have to write it in capital. So print has to be all in small letters, and in the round brackets, you're going to give whatever you want to print. Now, whatever I'm printing is a message, and message is a collection of characters. So in Python, we specifically call it a string. So normally in any programming language, whenever you have a collection of characters together, it's called string, S-T-R-I-N-G. Now, that string is always given in double quotes. Normal languages supports only double quotes, but Python allows you to put single or double, both. So I'm using double quotes, and I just print my message, that is hello world, and I put some exclamation marks. That's it. So this much is the code which is responsible of printing hello world on the screen. So what do? You go to run. So run means we want to execute the program. Then we go to run over here, and since we have only one program, so one is listed here, but if you have a list, it will be showing all of them. Select the file which you want to execute, so you get hello world. This window which opens up here is called output window. So here we get the output of the code, right?
So any command has to be
In round brackets.
In brackets, round brackets.
Yeah. So in programming, these are called functions.
Okay.
So print is a function. So whenever you have a function, the values which you give to the function to work upon, like hello world, I'm telling print that you have to print this value. So I'm giving something to it on which it can work. So the values given to the function are always given in the round brackets. Okay. So we write print hello world. So it will print hello world on the screen. Okay. And this is your output window. What else you have is, you can see now this bar on the right hand side in PyCharm. If I have multiple programs, I can click on this arrow and select which program I want to run.
Okay.
And this button is for debugging. That is, if you have errors, you can use this to highlight the errors one by one and then correct it. So debugging means if we have bugs, that means if we have errors, we can use this to correct the errors. And this is the button over here for run, if you want to run the same program again. So I can run the same program again by clicking on this. Okay. So this is simply printing hello world. I can print any number of messages. There is no limit to that. Like I write thanks for visiting. Now if I run, it will be printing 2 messages on the screen. By default, the next message is printed on the next line. Okay. Now this was only printing. Now let's say, instead of printing hello world, I want my program to ask you your name. I want when I when I run this, it should ask enter your name, and then you enter your name and the program should say hello Deepak, something like that. So that is input. So input is when we are going to get something into the program.
Okay.
So from outside, that might be from the user, that might be from a file, but if something is coming into the program, that's an input. And where do we take the input? We need to store that input in a special place called variable.
Okay.
So I write name is equal to, the command used to read is input. As we have print to print, we have input to read the value. Again, you have to put the round brackets because it's a function, and you have to ask for the name. So I'm going to ask like enter the name or enter your name, whatever message. And that has to be taken in a variable. So variable is basically a location in the memory to which we have given a name, because we can't remember the memory addresses, like where are we storing the data. So we take a variable name for that. This name also has to be given as per certain rules, like you can't have special symbols except underscore and dollar. You can't have spaces in a variable name. It can be only digits and alphabets. Okay. So enter your name. So this will prompt this message on the screen. Whatever I'll type in the output window, that will be stored in name. And then instead of hello world, I want to print hello and whatever name is entered. Okay. So I'll remove world and I'll give a comma here, because now what I'm going to print is not a fixed value, it's a variable. So when it's not a fixed value, you won't write it in double quotes. So a variable name, we don't write in double quotes. So it says hello, comma, name. That means hello would be printed as it is, comma, that means on the same line, you would be getting whatever is stored in name.
And after comma, we have to give a space?
Its space is not compulsory as per the language, but PyCharm wants you to give a space so that the code looks good.
Okay, okay.
but it's not an error as such. So that's the programming standard, that if you give space, your program looks more readable. Okay. So now I run this code by clicking over here. Now you can see it's asking for your name. So it says enter your name, and if I say Anjali, it says hello Anjali, thanks for visiting. If I run again and I enter Kabir, so it says hello Kabir, thanks for visiting. So that's how we can take a value and use it further. Okay. Now this is about reading a string. Are you clear till here? Okay. Now let's go for the mathematical operations, because we gave the name of the project as mathematics. So we have certain operators. Operators means the symbols which are used to perform calculations, like we have in maths: plus, minus, multiply, divide. So we have different type of operators in Python. So today we'll be covering only arithmetic operators out of that. So what do we mean by arithmetic operators? Arithmetic operators are the ones which are used to perform calculations. How many arithmetic operators we have? We have this, we have this, this, then we have plus and minus. Now what do all these mean? The first one is exponentiation, that is raised to the power. If you have to find 3 raised to the power 5, you can write 3 2 stars 5. So it will find 3 raised to the power 5. Now as you have BODMAS and maths, we don't have BODMAS here. So here we have the precedence levels. So what do we mean by precedence levels is that first exponent has the highest precedence. After that, on the next precedence level, you have multiply, divide and percentage sign. Then on the next level, we have plus and minus. So the operator on the highest level is evaluated first. Then the operator on the next level are evaluated from left to right. So whichever comes first from left, it will be evaluated. Like if you have divide first, multiply afterwards, so divide will be done first. If multiply is afterwards, so multiply will be done afterwards. Same is the case with plus minus, but these 3 levels are there. Now this is multiplication, this is division, and this one is used here because this division is for integer division. Like if you are dividing 5 upon 2. So now before you understand integer division, you must be clear with what do we mean by integer here. So integer and float are 2 types of numeric values in programming. Integer means the numbers which don't have a fractional part. You can't have anything in points over there. It's a whole number. And float means when you have numbers with a fraction. Okay. So 5 is an integer, but 5.0 is a float. So if I have 5 over here, it's an integer. I write 5 upon 2, and if I print it, my answer will be 2, not 2.5. So 5 upon 2 in Python is going to give you 2. But if you write 5 upon 2.0, it will give you 2.5, because one of the values is float. So complete result will be a float. So that means we have integer division where complete division is not possible. So we have another operator there called modulus. This percentage of sign is also called as modulus operator, and it is responsible for giving the remainders. So if you divide 5 by 2, 2 2s are 4, and I still have 1 left with me, that's the remainder, so it gives me the remainder. If I do 6 mod 2, I'll get 0 because there is no remainder. So this is for remainder. It has nothing to do with calculation of percentage. Plus minus is very much clear. How do we use it? Now let's do some example. Let's say I have to write a program where I have to input length and breadth of a rectangle and prints its area and perimeter. So it's a thing like you are a CA, so do you still remember the formula to find area and perimeter of a rectangle?
Yes, of course. That's very simple. No one can forget it.
Okay, what is it?
Area is length into breadth.
Yeah.
And perimeter is 2 times length plus 2 times breadth.
Great. So you know the formula. So as I told you, the program has 3 things to do: input, processing and output. So we need to take the length and breadth from the user as input, then we'll put the formulas for processing, and whatever we get, we'll print it as the result. So how do we go for it? So we'll make a new file here. So I make another file and I name it as, say, rectangle. Okay. So you want to read length. Now if I write here length is equal to input, enter length, and similar way I take another variable named breadth and I give a message and say enter breadth. So I get length and I get breadth, and then I have to calculate the area. So I write length multiplied by,
I think that we don't get any T.
okay, that's the English mistake, but programming has nothing to do with it. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, not bad. So we write the formula over here. So that's length and breadth are multiplied, and then we print the area. So we write area is, and then I want the area to be printed.
Oh, I think it has a D. It was my.
That's
it
what.
was my mistake. My bad.
Okay, I thought maybe fine. So we have length and breadth, and as you can see, I've changed here, but I haven't changed here, so you get an error. So the name of the variable must be same. You can't use a variable when it
Because
is
you
not
have not defined
initialized.
this variable, it is giving an error.
Exactly.
No.
So it has to be the same name, then only it will fetch that. So that's it. We are getting area here. Okay. Now if I run this, so for running this, I have to go to run and click on run, and I want to run rectangle this time. So I select rectangle. It's asking for the length, then it's asking for the breadth, and I get an error. Why do I get an error, and what's the error? The error says type error, can't multiply sequence by non-int of type str. Why this happens? Because we have this input function which is responsible to input something, but it inputs everything as a string. So we can't multiply two strings. That's why the error came. So I need to tell whether I want to treat the input as an integer or as a float.
Okay.
So length and breadth can be in points. So I prefer to take it in floats. So you are going to write float here since it's also a function. So you put a round bracket here, and the round bracket will close at the end. Similar way I have to do for the breadth. So we do it over here, and that's it. I run it again, and then I enter length and breadth, and here I have the area. So this is only the area. You want to get the perimeter as well. So it's not necessary that I give the whole name as perimeter. I can have only P or even peri. It's totally up to you, whatever name you want. Now if I write here 2 into length into breadth, would it be fine? Is this formula fine?
I think first it will calculate 2 into length, then it will multiply into breadth. So we'll have to set the order right.
Exactly. So if I write like this, it will multiply
into breadth into 2. Something.
2 into length plus breadth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I write like this, it will multiply 2 with length and then add breadth to that. But we don't want that. We want length and breadth to be added first. So for that, we use these brackets called parentheses here. So once you use the bracket with the functions, that's one thing. But in arithmetic expressions, you can use these parentheses, that is the small round brackets, to make sure that this operation is performed before this one. So it will solve the brackets first, and then it will multiply the two. Now if I execute, I'll get both area and perimeter. So if it is 5 and 3, the area is 15 and the perimeter is 16. Now it's up to you, how do you format? Like you want that whenever it says like enter length in centimeter, I can write in centimeter, and then area is centimeter square, right? So I can write centimeter square. And what about perimeter is only in centimeters. So we can write centimeter. So you can change string, variable string any number of times, but you just need to separate it with a comma. So if we do like this, it would be like just a different look to my output, but otherwise it's doing the same thing. So the output looks like this now, right? So it's totally in your hand that what are you calculating, what are you printing. So this is a very basic program for calculations. Slowly we will add more things into it, like we will check conditions, like if this thing happens, then what should be done? If this thing is there, then what should be done? So that's how we'll go ahead, but right now I want you to try one program.
Okay.
So I have done to find length and, I have done to find area and perimeter of rectangle. Let's say you have to make one where you have to you have to make one for calculating your type of question, that is simple interest and compound interest. So you have to input the principal rate and time from the user and calculate what would be the simple interest for that and what would be the compound interest for that.
Okay.
You want to try your hand?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So shall I make a new file?
Yeah. So for that you have to go to File menu,
New.
New. Before you click on New, your cursor should be here, otherwise it will create a new output window. Yeah. So go to File, New, and now Python file. Python file. Yes. So you can give it any name, say interest.
Enter. So first we got principal.
Yeah. But then you would face a problem over here. Input reads a value in the form of a string. So what do we have to do for fixing that? Very good. Good.
And then
If you want to test it, you can run it first to see if this
Run.
much is
Run from
working.
here.
This would run rectangle because you can see in the combo box rectangle is selected. So for the first time, if you are running the program, you have to go to run menu on the top and then go to run option, third option, and from here select interest and choosing.
Then I think we also need to mention
The time.
the time.
And you have to write upon 100 as well if you're calculating simple interest. So it will be principal into interest into time upon 100. So you have to take time also from the user. So you need to change the formula. Exactly. So that is important. We have to input time first and then we have to use it in the formula. Because by the time we don't have a value in the variable, we can't use that variable. I think it was not copied.
Let's do it again.
The order doesn't matter, so you can multiply any of the one first.
Oof, 1 minute.
Upon 100. You have given the variable name as int and you have printed interest. And one more thing, there is a rule in every programming language that you can't use keywords as the variable names. So as we have float as a function which converts the value to a floating point number, we have int for integers.
Okay.
So you won't be allowed to use int as a variable name. You can maybe write int r, anything, but int you can't use because that is already reserved for converting a value to an integer. Upon 100 also I guess you should do. Into time upon 100. Yeah, anywhere. It's the same thing. Now here you have given the parenthesis, but it was not required because by default Python will multiply first and then divide, not because multiply has the higher precedence, but because it's coming first. So from left to right it will execute in the order. So if you give, it's okay. If you don't give, then also it's the same thing. Yeah. Stop and rerun. So it's 1200. Got it? So that's how we write a program. Okay? So I hope you're clear with the basic that how to find a simple interest. What about if you have to find a compound interest?
I have to look for the formula first.
So it's a complex formula. I guess it's 1 plus r upon 100 raised to the power n and multiplied by principal. But that gives us the amount. So we have to subtract the principal from the amount to get the interest. So that is as a homework you can try later at home. But you understood how to take the input, how to do the basic calculation and print the result. So like this, I can write any program. If I give you a program to input marks in 5 subjects of a student, find the total and the percentage marks, we can easily do that, right? I can do it for any geographical shapes, like I can do it for finding area and circumference of a circle. I can do it for a cube, for a square, even if you're calculating income tax. But in income tax, we need to check conditions. But if the conditions are not required, like I have to find GST, okay? So I want to calculate total GST. So I can make a program where I input the bill amount and then I calculate the state GST, I calculate the central GST, and then finally I find the amount to be paid. So it's any kind of calculation, anything you can think of. So whatever calculations you think of, you can write the code. The only thing is to just input the value, write down the formula, and calculate the stuff. So
Sorry, you can just.
I just made a new file.
Okay.
I just went to file and new file and made this file GST, nothing much. So if I have to read the bill amount, which would be a float, so I can write like float input enter bill amount, and okay, so it's like enter bill amount. So we get the bill amount, and you know what percentage we have central GST
12.5.
is central GST. So it's like 12.5 multiplied by bill amount upon 100. And what is state GST? Let's say 7.5, whatever. So it could be any percentage, but let's say I find this. And so I have found state and central GST, and then I have to get the total bill. So I'm not supposed to use a space in a variable name, so I'm using underscore over here. And the total bill is going to be bill amount plus CGST, which is central GST, and then I do plus state GST, and then you need to print them all. Now it's up to you whether you want to print the GST amount also, or you just want to print the final bill. That's up to you. So if I print the whole, so first I print that this much is the central GST. Then I print GST state. So it should be SGST. And then I print amount to pay is total bill. So that's how we can do any question which needs certain formulas. So we just have to take the input from the user, calculate using the formula, and then print the result. So this is GST. I enter the bill amount to be 2000. So it shows me that 250 is the GST central, 150 is state GST, and the bill amount is 2400. Right? So we have done today like how can we do basic input processing with the help of formulas, and how can we print it in Python. Any doubts you have in this?
No doubts to have.
Okay, so for you and all others who are watching this video, you can try a few set of programs at home. One is for compound interest, as I've already told. Second could be to input marks of a student in 5 subjects, calculate the total and percentage, and print the same. Then you can do for area and circumference of a circle. And then I can make for a shopkeeper. He's selling something on a profit. Right now we are assuming that it's profit. Later we'll check like if we have got a profit or we've got a loss, but right now we're assuming it's profit. So if it is profit, you have to print the profit percentage. So whatever he has gained, whatever profit he has gained, what percentage of profit he has earned on it, right? So I guess these many are enough for the basic practice. So you are going to practice this much, and tomorrow we would be continuing with the session, and we'll be checking out that how can we put conditions here for checking. Like if you have to find income tax, so we have different slabs there. Like if your income is between this to this, then this much percent of tax is there. If it's between this much range, then it's like that. Similar way, we have various other calculations. For example, a student, you need to check if a student is getting more than 90, he is getting higher distinction. If it is between 80 to 90, the student is getting distinction, something like that. So we'll be discussing all those programs tomorrow when we'll see how to use if statement in Python. Till then, you practice these questions, and I hope you're clear with the basics of Python and how to write simple programs in Python. If yes, don't forget to click the like button over there on the video. Do share it with other people who are interested in learning Python, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow, hopefully the same time. That's it for this video, and by the time I upload more, just keep watching, keep learning. कहीं पे भी लाइव आ जाओ।